Hello there, I'm Rylan, and I had an issue where I needed a password manager because I'm not gonna lie, all my passwords were pretty much the same. Meaning if somebody hacked one of my accounts, they would have practically have hacked all of my accounts. So I needed to improve this situation. So I was looking for a password manager out there, and the one that I was thinking about getting was called LastPass. However, they had just been reportedly hacked at that time, and I was like, well, that's not the best option for me. I want something that is going to be secure. So I wrote my own password manager. It's called Reactive-Pass, and it's designed to be super secure, and it's even open source, so you can just look at the code yourself if you want to. When I created Reactive-Pass, I initially created it for myself to deploy on my local area network, meaning nobody can access it from the internet. It's just only available to me when I'm at my house, or I'm using a virtual private network, a VPN, to remote into my house. However, I liked it so much and I wanted to share it with people, so I created it and I deployed it on the wide area network, so it's available at reactivepass.com, and I recommend that if you want to access it from anywhere on any device. However, that's not what I fully recommend is the best, safest way to store your passwords. Even though it has two-factor authentication and encryption, the safest way you can store your passwords is on your own local network. That's why, although I do recommend subscribing to that and subscribing to this YouTube channel, the best thing you can do is deploy it on your own network and having it accessible from only you when you are on your own network. So let me describe what on your own network actually means. When you make requests on the internet, you are going to your router and saying, hey, I'd like to go to google.com, and your router says, okay, I'm shooting you off to google.com. It's a bit more complicated than that in detail, however, that's the gist of it. When you deploy something on your own network, such as a file server, or in this case, a web server, that is not going to be able to be accessed outside of your network. You can try to access it, but your router is just going to say, who are you? And then say, no, turn back now. So what this means for us is that anybody on the open network, the wide area network, cannot come into our network and access our passwords. We can only do it when we are on our own network. You can create a VPN to tunnel into your own network. There will be another video on how to do that in the future. Ready to deploy your own password manager? Let's go! So the first thing we actually need to do is create the actual server itself, and there's multiple ways we can do this. We can use a Raspberry Pi, which is why I have this up here. I don't have one on hand, so I'm not going to use that for this tutorial. You just need to create a virtual machine, in which I have ESXi running on a server in my basement downstairs. I'll put a photo of that on screen. And you need to create a virtual machine that runs either Debian or Ubuntu or any other Debian-based operating system. And there are going to be softwares that you're going to need to run on this server. So if you want to use your own existing server, just make sure that it can run these softwares. The first one is MySQL, the second one is Node Package Manager, and the third one is PM2, which is installed by Node Package Manager. So really only two, but I'm going to guide you through that here in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and create this server and get command line access to it, and then I'm going to guide you through on how to deploy Reactive-Pass on it. So I have the computer set up now here on ESXi, and again, like you could use a Raspberry Pi or another type of computer for this. Just make sure it can run Ubuntu. So I'm going to go ahead and SSH into it now. SSH Rylan Tech at 192.168.1.20, which is the IP address. It's going to ask us, do you want to save this computer? Yes, and I'm in. So now we're going to want to update the system. So type in sudo apt-update and sudo apt-get upgrade. And we're going to let that run for a while. We're going to install MySQL, which we're going to type in sudo apt-install mysql-server, and once I click enter, this should install MySQL. Oh yeah, password.
Okay, so now that we have MySQL installed, it took me a couple tries, I'll be honest with you, to get this right. Because MySQL has been causing me so many headaches. I cannot, for some reason, get a password for the root user. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a user and then grant all the privileges within MySQL to that user. And so we need a password for the user because we need to put that password inside the project to access the database and store things in. But for some reason, it's not letting me create a password for the root user. So what we're going to do is we're going to force log in to the root user by typing in sudo mysql. And here we're going to type in create user and then the name of the user. And this can be anything. I'm going to type in rylantech and then the localhost. And all of this will be in the description below, so you can copy and paste this in if you want to. And then identified by, and then the password. So there I'm just going to type in 1234 for just for now. Enter, and then zero rows affected, but don't worry that it is affected. So now what we want to do is we want to grant all privileges on star period star to, and then the user that we just created, which is going to be rylantech at localhost. And so, and then the semicolon, which ends the command, and then okay, that has affected everything that it needs to. And so now we can type in exit, and that'll leave MySQL. And so we're going to re-log in by typing in mysql -user rylantech, the user we just created, and -p for password, and then we're going to type in the password, the one I created, 1234, and now we're in. So the only thing, now that we have the password that we need, the only thing we need to do is create a database called Rpass. So create database, and this honestly really, this database can be called anything you want to. I'm just going to call it Rpass, and then there it's created. We can type in show databases, and then there are all the databases, but the one we want to pay attention to is Rpass. That's created. Okay, perfect. So now we can exit, and we're done with MySQL. We don't have to worry about that anymore. So now we're going to install Node Package Manager and Node. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to type in, I'm going to clear that, and we're going to type in, also, by the way, if you did not understand any of the MySQL stuff, do not worry about it. I have everything that you need to type in the description below, so you can just follow along with that and with what I was doing. So with Node Package Manager, we're going to type in sudo apt-get npm. Install npm. And then, yes, I'm sure we want to install that. Once that installs, we're going to install a package called just the letter N. And what this will do is it'll allow us to upgrade Node to the version that we need it to be to run our project. Okay, now that we have npm installed, we're going to type in npm and use npm to install, and then a -g tag to install globally and everywhere on the computer, just the letter N. And then this package will allow us to, npm, maybe it's just npm i-g in, permission denied. Okay, sudo npm i-g in. So what I'm going to type in is install LTS, and what LTS is the latest stable version. And so once I type that in, need to again type in the sudo keyword, sudo. There we go. And this is just gonna give us the latest version of Node Package Manager. The latest stable version is 20.16. So if I type in node-v, I just say it is 20.16, which is perfect. That is what we want to be on there. So now what we want to go ahead and do is that now that all of our dependencies are set up, we need to go ahead and install, well, almost all of them. We need to go ahead and install the project. So here I'm going to pull this over here. This is the project. I'll link this in the description below, and I'm going to go ahead and click the code button and then copy the link, and we're going to type in git clone and then the link. Just paste it in there, and then that is in there. Now if I type in ls, which shows all the directories underneath, there it is, Local-Reactive-Pass. Going to type in cd local-reactive-pass, and then type in ls again. There's going to be two different projects basically that we need to run. The backend, which controls the connection to the database and receives information from the front end, which is what we go to connect to show all the website stuff that we see and that we interact with. So let's get the backend set up first. So I'm going to type in cd rpass-backend and then ls, and there are all of the files that we need to get this going. So first thing we need to do is we need to create a file called .env, and you can do this by just typing nano, which is a text editor, and then .env. Looks like I didn't delete it from the from when I was testing it earlier, but however, these are all the variables that we need basically. DB name, we change. It says Local-Reactive-Pass. We made ours rpass, so I'm just gonna type in rpass. User is not root, it's Ryland Tech. Password is 1234, and then encryption secret. Now, this helps, like, adds a variable within your encryption to make it more difficult to go ahead and crack the password. So the longer, the more complicated, the better. It's kind of like a password to your encryption methods. However, there are other variables that go into that that makes it more scrambled up. Basically, the longer the better on here. But I'm just gonna make this all of that, and we should be good to go. So I'm gonna Control S to save, and then Control X to exit, and then now that is done. And so we can type in npm I, and this is going to install all the dependencies that this uses. All right, that's done. So we can type in npm run build, and this is going to make a build. Oh, whoops. Looks like we don't have TypeScript installed. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to type npm I TypeScript, typescript. Okay, now we can type in npm run build. All right, now that that's done, we can type in npm start. And if we set everything up properly, it's going to run and then set up all the database stuff, which it just did with all of this stuff. And it's also going to log everything under here. However, if we wanted to access the terminal, or if we closed this session, we're going to stop the API. That's what this is, an API. Then we're going to stop that from running. And we want it to run all the time. We don't want it to just run, type in, whenever we type in npm start. So we're going to need to install a process manager. This is called PM2, the one that I'm going to be using. And we're going to type in sudo npm I-g. So what we're doing here is sudo admin privileges, npm, use the package manager to install this. Go ahead, again, install this. -g means globally, so install it everywhere. PM2. And what this is going to do is this is going to allow us to run the command npm start in the background, so we don't even have to worry about having a terminal open somewhere running this on another computer. This will just run in the background while the server's on, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to type in within the Rpass-backend directory, I'm going to type in PM2 start, and then in quotations npm start. That's the command we want to run. -n, give it a name, Rpass-backend. Cool, there it is. So here what we can do, if we want to stop it, we can type in PM2 stop, and then 0, which is the ID. PM2 start 0, and then PM2 logs 0 to access what we were accessing previously with all the logs, and exit, or Control C to exit. Anyway, this is now running in the background, and now basically we want to set up the front end to do the same. So I'm going to type in cd ... and this will take us back to the Local-Reactive-Pass directory. Type in cd rpass-frontend here, and we want to type in npm I. It does give us all these errors here, but we don't need to worry about that. So now what we want to do is, now that this is installed, before we run the project, we actually need to locate a file and edit it. So I'm going to type in ls. We're going to go into the source folder, so type in cd src, and then ls again. And then we need to go to the context folder, so cd context, ls, and these two files we need to update. So we're going to type in nano PassContext And here, this variable here that says base URL, we're going to change that. Instead of saying localhost 3001, we're going to change this to say the IP address of this computer, which is 192.168.1.20, and then 3001. That is the location of the server of the backend side, and we need to point this towards that location. So we're going to click Ctrl S to save and exit, and we need to do the same thing for the other context, which was ls user context. So nano user context, and we're going to change this to say 192.168.1.20, and then later on I'm going to show you how to set a static IP for this computer so your IP address does not change, because it's possible that your router may go, we should change things around, but you're going to set something called a static IP on your router, and that's basically not going to allow this to change. I'll show you how to do that later on. Let's set up PM2 with our front end as well, so we have that always running in the background. So we're going to type in, make sure we're in Reactive-Pass / Rpass-frontend. So we're going to type in PM2 start, and then in quotations, npm start, and then the dash name Rpass-frontend. You can name that whatever you want to. Now I'm going to click enter, and you see the second one is online right there. It has an ID of 2. So we're going to do PM2 logs 2. All right, it's right there and it's successfully running. And so if we go to this on our network, so I'm just going to copy that address. If I bring this over here and if I type that URL in, and boom, there we go. Quick side note, you're going to want to type in PM2 startup Ubuntu in here if you're using Ubuntu. If you're using Debian, you can just type in PM2 startup. Ooh, looks like I need to add up there. And there we go. That's just going to allow, we need to copy this command here, right click and then copy, and follow that instruction there. And my password. What I'm doing here is I am creating a script using PM2 that enables the PM2 processes to start up upon a reboot. So when a power outage happens, or you have to move the server, or whatever happens, and you have to turn it off, the processes will automatically start by themselves without you having to go in and type in PM2 start, npm start, and whatever. So it is all automatically done. You don't have to touch it again in the future. The password manager is set up, and we can go ahead and create an account. I'm going to create one. Ryland Tech subscribe at rylandtech.com, and then a password, and then create an account. And then now we can sign in. And then you can also set up 2FA if you want to. You just, once you're signed in here, go to the menu and click add 2FA, and then you can also reset your master pass. But now we're in here now, and it's fully functional. It's working. You can just save this URL, and then you can just access it whenever. And I know it says not secure. However, what's happening here is that there is no encryption tunnel between your computer and the server. However, your server is on your own network, so there's nothing to worry about unless you're worried about your physical network being compromised. Here we can just create a pass, and I'll type in all this information. Now that we got all this important information in here, we can just type in the password and then save and encrypt. And then boom, it's right here. We can just type in the password again, and then boom, we're in. Awesome. And I'll go ahead and delete that. One thing to note is that do not lose your password. Your password is part of the encryption within your account. So if you lose your password for the master password, you lose everything. Do not lose your master password, although you only have to keep track of that one instead of keeping track of all your other passwords. Now I'm going to show you how you can set your IP for that device specifically so it doesn't change. This is called an IP reservation. Earlier I may have called it a static IP. That's kind of different, but it's an IP reservation. Go to 192.168.1.1 and then log in once you get there. Once you get to your router, locate where you can set an IP reservation. For me, it was under Advanced and LAN Setup. And then you're going to scroll to where you can find the Add button. Click Add. and then select the computer you want to reserve for. So here is 192.168.1.20. It's not showing the name for some reason, but that's okay. But I'm just going to select it, and that should put an rpass for the name. And that will reserve the IP. So if there's a power outage or something happens and the router powers off and powers back on, it's going to say, hey, these are the IP addresses that should be assigned to this device. Don't assign them to anyone else. So I'm going to go ahead and click add. And it's saved there. So now don't have to worry about the IP address changing. And that's it. You have a password manager on your own local network that you have complete control over. You got to admit, that's pretty awesome. Anyway, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.